Hey there, Psychonauts. So, today I am going to share some of my psychedelic origins, and I'm going to tell the story of how I became a psychonaut. So, I had my first psychedelic experience in 2016. It was for New Year's, and I was a student at the time. I was studying physics. Well, I guess technically we were on a break, but I was a physics student. I chose to study physics because I really wanted to understand the universe and understand reality. I was kind of on this path of trying to seek out truth. A few years prior to this first experience, I had actually went through a significant transformation. I was raised Christian, and I turned away from that around the time I was 18 and 19. And I really tried to go on this path of seeking out truth and trying to understand reality. So I went from being a Christian to going through a phase of being an atheist. And I would continue on this path of trying to figure it all out. I guess that's the best way to describe it. I was just wanting to figure it all out. And psychedelics ended up being an important step in that process. So I had my first trip. It was New Year's 2016. It was an LSD experience. And this wasn't the most profound experience that I had with psychedelics, but it definitely was an experience that opened me up to, I don't really know how to describe what it did, but it kind of flips a switch. It's like there was something there, and I knew that there was something there after the first time I had the experience. That's the best way I can describe it, is I had the experience and I knew that there was something to it. Up until that point, I think it was just the most interesting thing that had ever happened to me. And so I wanted to pursue it. I wanted to see what the psychedelic experience could lead me to. So the next time I had a trip was May of that year. So we're at May of 2016, and I take a mushroom trip during a short weekend camping trip, and I had a good time. I realized at that point that I was more interested in LSD, but I think I probably just needed to take more mushrooms. But again, I was very fascinated with the whole experience, and I knew I wanted to keep exploring the psychedelic experience. So nothing too mystical or profound has happened yet at this point, and I'm still a physics student. I guess we go through the whole summer. I don't have any psychedelic experiences. I go back to school in the fall, and I'm getting into some of my upper level physics courses, and one of my courses is a course on modern physics. So we're learning things like relativity and quantum mechanics, and it's so fascinating to me because I'm learning from this formal perspective that reality is not what we think it is, or at least reality doesn't behave the way we would think it does based on common sense. So I knew there was this hidden layer to reality, that there was something going on that nobody fully understood yet, and I was so fascinated by that mystery. I ended up having some more profound LSD experiences during this time. I had an experience in September, I had one in October, and then I had another one at New Year's, and that ended up being my most profound trip to date. But this is where things really started to transform inside me, and I realized there's that quote, I think it's from Terrence McKenna, that psychedelics open you up to the possibility that everything you know is wrong. And that's really what stuck with me. You go through your whole life and reality is presented this one way, and then you're in this altered state of consciousness and reality is this different way. And just things didn't add up. I knew that there was more to reality than any current models, whether they're religious models or scientific models. Any of our current models could fully explain. So I kind of went on my own journey of trying to figure out what reality is. I started really particularly becoming very fascinated with consciousness and the nature of consciousness. I really started to believe that consciousness was a fundamental, that consciousness was something fundamental to reality. I no longer believed that consciousness was just created by the brain. I really started to believe that it underlied physical reality, that it was more fundamental than physical reality itself. In fact, during this period of psychedelic exploration, that was one of the main things that was happening, is I stopped being a materialist, and I stopped thinking that material reality was base reality. I mean, and I started believing in like higher dimensions. I thought reality was much more dimensional than it was presented as, and it's strange. I did gain, there's a lot of things that were happening all at once, so it's really hard to describe it. So I gained like a sense of spirituality. I had this like philosophical awakening where I shift my perspective of what I thought reality was in the first place. All these things were happening. I was having like personal transformations. Let's go back to my most important experience. So my most profound psychedelic experience happened New Year's of 2017. I had this experience where kind of I realized like my whole life was an illusion. And I felt like I had merged into this like universal mind in some way. There was like no more sense of self. And I had this distinct feeling that there was only one mind, and I guess that was kind of like the base of reality, like this mind or this like universal consciousness, and like that was like projecting everything, like including my entire life. And like that's what I experienced, and like it was so real to me. It was so real to me. But basically after that trip, my life was completely changed permanently. Like I don't think I ever went back. I think like I made a shift psychologically that I've never recovered from. And I guess that is like one of the dangers of psychedelics. Like you may never be the same. And this is when I start struggling academically. Up until that point, I mean, I was a straight A student. And after that profound experience, I was really just questioning my entire reality, my entire self, everything. And I was obsessed with like just figuring out reality. And I was obsessed with something that I can't really quite explain. And I devoted my energy to that. And I ended up doing poorly academically that semester, and I ended up not coming back to school after that semester. I took some time off. So I continued down the psychedelic path. In 2017, I tripped relatively frequently. Probably the most often I ever tripped was like once every 2 weeks, but a lot of times it was like once every 4 weeks. Sometimes it would be longer breaks than that. I don't know. It was kind of all over the place. But I did trip a lot in 2017 and 2018. And the beginning of 2019 is the peak of my psychedelic period in my life. I think it actually kind of would have been interesting if I would have started a YouTube channel when I was going through everything. But I guess that wouldn't have worked. I was really far out there. I was so far out there. I don't even know. I'm like so much more grounded now, and I guess it's a good thing. I think it's useful for gaining things like stability and just like being able to process things, being able to integrate all these experiences that I had. But part of me does kind of miss that far out headspace that I used to have. I mean, I'd have it even when I wasn't tripping, you know. I was just constantly, it's just like I was living in this different plane of reality all the time. It was very strange. But yeah, psychedelics really helped me in my quest to understand reality. They haven't necessarily, here's how I should phrase it. I found the psychedelic path because I was seeking out a way to understand reality, and psychedelics, I don't know. It's like, if I hadn't found psychedelics, maybe I could have tried to understand reality through these different ways, but I think I would have been missing such a huge piece of the puzzle if I hadn't found psychedelics. There's so many things that I have come to understand through direct experience that I don't think I could have understood otherwise. So much of the psychedelic experience is completely beyond words. And the thing is, so much of it is completely beyond logic. It's so strange because I came into the experience with logic and like with skepticism, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. Didn't matter. The psychedelic experience broke through all of that. It broke through logic. Things happen that I still just cannot explain. And that's why I have to keep coming back to the psychedelic experience. And that's why I'm a psychonaut, because I want to figure it out. And psychedelics seem to be the only thing that gets me closer to really understanding reality. There's just like a hidden dimension that's constantly here that is just so hard to interact with. Like maybe theoretically you can interact with it without psychedelics. I actually know that you could, but in practice, psychedelics seems to be the easiest way to be able to interact with whatever it is. I don't really know. There's really no words for it. It's like you need to invent a new vocabulary just to talk about psychedelics. But yeah, this whole thing is a jumbled mess. I don't really think this is necessarily a coherent description of how I became a psychonaut. I kind of just came into this video just wanting to make a video so bad. I really just like getting myself talking and seeing what happens, but I needed to have some kind of direction for this video. So I hope you can get something out of what I shared with you, and yeah, I hope you like it. I hope you like it. I hope you like what I've offered in this video. Like I said, I'm just repeating stuff at this point, so I will see you all in the next video.